If you aspire to be a millionaire, there are just 4 numbers you need to track consistently to build wealth and reach millionaire status. I'm not talking about advanced investing concepts or complicated formulas like the quadratic equation. On the contrary, these are simple metrics that anybody can monitor regardless of where you're starting from. I myself know these 4 numbers like the back of my hand, and I'm so excited to share them with you today because I really think that if you master these numbers, I believe that you too will become a millionaire soon enough. Now, if you're already a millionaire, this video will still be a good reminder of what you should be looking at in order to stay wealthy. The first number that you should be tracking is to know what your savings rate is. You want to target a savings goal of at minimum 10 to 20% of your take-home income. Most Americans save less than 5% of their income, which virtually guarantees that they'll never be a millionaire unless they get a crazy windfall of money like an inheritance, lottery, or maybe a huge payout from their company. But if you're able to just reach a savings rate of 10% minimum, or maybe upwards of 20% or more, you will easily become a millionaire in your lifetime, and the higher your savings rate, the faster you will become a millionaire. A high savings rate forces financial discipline, and it requires you to live below your means and develop spending habits that won't inflate while you increase your income. In fact, this is the exact behavior pattern that millionaires maintain even after achieving significant wealth or income as well. If you can stay disciplined with your savings percentage, then you'll be investing in your retirement and future at all times. Now, I do get some feedback from people that there is some confusion around the savings category because people often want to know how much of this total savings amount per paycheck that they should be investing. So to answer that, I made a fun little flow chart. So this total savings goal of yours of 10 to 20% of your take-home pay, I think it should be broken out into 3 buckets: normal savings, and then investing, and then short-term goals. So ideally your savings follows this diagram right here. Whenever you get paid, you take 10 to 20% of that take-home pay, and that's your savings amount. And the first priority of that savings is to fill up your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses saved up. This is the most important thing because you need to make sure that at all times you can continue to operate your life, especially if you ever encounter a financial emergency. Now, once you have that bucket filled up, future savings dollars should go towards 2 goals: investing and short-term savings goals. When it comes to how much you should be allocating to each of these 2 buckets, this really depends on your life's priorities, but I would always recommend at least contributing some of your savings towards retirement. And then depending on how urgent of a savings goal you have for the next 1 to 3 years, you can allocate more or less of your savings towards that savings goal. Let's pretend that you know you want to get engaged in a couple years and you want to save for an engagement ring, perhaps for the time being. That means you would contribute a little less towards your retirement while you allocate more of your savings to that engagement ring goal. You would still be contributing to retirement in this case, but maybe instead of 10% of your savings to retirement and 10% to short-term goals, for the period while you're trying to save up for that engagement ring, maybe the split is more 5% towards retirement and 15% towards the engagement ring itself. Eventually, once you have most of your short-term savings complete, you can go back towards contributing more of that savings towards your retirement. All right, the next big number you need to track is what your fixed expenses are. These are the expenses that you pay every single month. Some examples could be your car payment, your rent, gym membership, debt payments, subscriptions, and utilities. Basically, any recurring expenses and expenses you absolutely need in order to continue living life. This category should make up around 50% of your total take-home pay, but if it makes up closer to 55 or even 60%, you can still live life with this. You just want to make sure that you're not going above, let's say, 65 or maybe even 70%. If you find your fixed expenses making up, let's say, 75% of your total pay, so that's way too much of your overall income, then you should really reevaluate the top categories of your expenses. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2024, most households have the same major expenses, and that is housing, transportation, and food/insurance. So I think that small changes on these top categories can actually help us save a lot of money and fast. Honestly, I see too many people get it wrong on the internet, like they focus on cutting back these smaller expenses like the daily Starbucks coffee or perhaps removing your Spotify subscription. And sure, if you delete your Spotify subscription, you would save, I don't know, $120 a year, but that alone won't reduce your fixed expenses by that much. Instead, we want to focus on the big expenses like housing, transportation, and insurance because even small changes here can lead to much bigger results. For example, with housing, something you can do if you're renting is to negotiate how much you pay in rent if you have a good reason for it. I signed a lease on this apartment that I'm in right now in November, and I was able to get a bit of a discount because I was willing to sign an extended lease. This gives the landlord more security, knowing that they won't have to deal with a period of vacancy, and I was also able to get 2 free weeks of rent because the rental market in San Francisco at the time when I was applying was quite soft. Another method to reduce a top expense is your transportation budget. So if you have, let's say, an overpriced car payment, You can consider trading down to a less expensive car. You could transfer the lease to someone else, or perhaps you can refinance the loan when rates come down or if your credit score has improved. Another area of transportation where you can reduce really quickly is just simply insurance. Oftentimes, if you call a competing insurance company, you may be able to find a cheaper insurance rate to the tune of $300 to even $500 per year, depending on how many cars or items you have to insure. It's just usually that people don't want to take the time to call their insurance company or perhaps go online to look up different quotes because it's kind of a hassle, yes, but it will help you reduce fixed expenses for sure. I will link a free insurance comparison tool down below in the description where you can easily check to see offers in your area to save some money. Now, it takes about 5 minutes to fill out, but it could potentially save you a lot of money. Another option to reduce your transportation costs is to carpool more often to work or take public transportation once a week instead of always driving. The point of all this is to really take a good look at where you're spending the most money and think of creative ways that you can bring down that expense, because that's going to make the biggest impact on your wallet at the end of the day. If you're able to just reduce your overall fixed expenses by just 5%, that can go a very long way for the rest of your life, especially if you consider investing that 5% for your retirement. Speaking of tracking important numbers on your path to success, let me tell you about another powerful numbers game that is transforming businesses right now. When it comes to maximizing business revenue, Omnisend comes in really handy. For e-commerce brands, email marketing delivers one of the highest ROIs in the game, 68 to 1. So for every dollar spent with Omnisend email marketing, you would get back $68 of revenue, and that's pretty insane. So while in your personal life, you need to monitor 4 numbers to become a millionaire, successful business owners are tracking their customer relationships and sales with Omnisend's powerful analytics. The platform is intuitive for experts and rookies alike, and you're getting sophisticated marketing automation without wasting time figuring out complex systems. And unlike other platforms where you're overpaying for features you'll never use, Omnisend gives you exactly what you need at a smarter price point. I think of it like investing wisely, just like in your personal finances. Perhaps the most impressive number is that over 125,000 businesses trust Omnisend to drive their growth. So whether you're sending personalized emails or targeted SMS campaigns, Omnisend helps you nurture customer relationships that translate directly to revenue. Wealth building isn't just about saving, it's about creating systems that generate consistent income, and Omnisend is that system for email marketing. If you run a business, try out Omnisend today with my link down below, and thank you to them for sponsoring this portion of the video. The next number to keep track of is your discretionary spending number. So in terms of how much of your overall spending pie this should make up, we're gonna just look at whatever is left after you add up your fixed expenses and your savings. If your fixed expenses are 60% of your income and you're saving 10% of your income, then you would have 30% left for discretionary spending. Now, this is the money that can be literally spent on anything you want, hence the name discretionary. It's under your discretion what you want to spend it on. If you feel like saving more, you can take some of your discretionary spending and just put it towards your savings. Or if you just feel like spending your money on takeout sushi every week, then so be it. That's how I like to spend my money anyways, and ideally your discretionary spend is only going to be about 30% of your overall income, and that's the maximum it should be. Now, discretionary spending is essential to living your life because otherwise, what else is the point of money? Like, have you ever thought about why you're even watching this video? It's probably to better understand your finances so that eventually you can get to a point where you're comfortable with retiring and you have enough extra money to spend on the things that you love and are passionate about. So that's something we shouldn't forget, that money is at the end of the day a tool. It's a tool for what we want to experience and enjoy out of life. And while we do have to be responsible with our money in order to make it grow and fund our lifestyle later on in life, we should still be enjoying the day-to-day with it as well. In terms of how to figure out if your spending is aligning with your values, you may want to consider what's called the conscious spending approach. This is where you ask yourself before any purchase that you make, you look at the item and you say, hey, is this aligned with what brings me joy and value in my life? If you do this, you're making your purchases very intentional, and that way you're eliminating any impulse purchases that won't actually make a difference in your life. There's kind of a similar method in that Marie Kondo book about tidying up. I think it's called The Art of Tidying Up. And in that book, she kind of just says, if you look at an item and it doesn't spark you joy, you ask yourself, hey, does this item spark me joy? And if it doesn't, you throw it away. We're gonna be doing that exact same process just for buying things, and hopefully that makes sense. For example, if you value travel but find that most of your discretionary money is going towards random Amazon purchases, that's when you may want to realign your spending. Many millionaires out there, they're not actually living ultra luxurious lifestyles. They're strategic about their spending. They understand the difference between expenses that bring them lasting fulfillment versus ones that are just, chasing temporary highs. If you want more tips on how to spend your money wisely, just invite me over and I'll make sure that we spend all of your money together. Just kidding, of course, but hopefully that helped you kind of understand what your framework for purchases should be in the discretionary expenses bucket. The last number you should track to be a millionaire is your overall net worth. If you don't know what approximately your net worth is, this is something that you need to calculate on a regular basis. Just like if you were trying to lose weight at the gym, you need to have an idea of what your baseline is. Like, let's say you want to lose 5 pounds, but you don't know what your starting weight is, then it would be impossible to know if you're actually on track for it or not. I think that's pretty straightforward when it comes to fitness, but most people don't think the same way when it comes to money. So for some reason, people just have a mental block when it comes to money goals. In order to calculate your net worth, you simply add up all of your assets, subtract any debts or liabilities, and then boom, that's your net worth. So if you have a house worth $200K, investing in bank balance of around $20K, but you owe $30,000 on a car, then your net worth is $200K for the house plus $20K for the balances that you have minus $30K for the car for a total of $190K. I personally track my net worth at the end of every month, but honestly, that still might be too short of an interval, mainly because if a lot of your net worth is tied up in the stock market, it could really fluctuate on a month-to-month basis. So I think a better plan and a more fruitful plan is to track it every quarter, every half year, or maybe even every year. Now, I've personally created a net worth tracker that is free to download below in the description. It's set up for half-year increments right now, but if you really wanted to, you could go with monthly, quarterly, or yearly. You can just adjust the columns as you see fit. You simply just enter all of your assets and liabilities every single period, and then it will show you a trend of your net worth as you fill it out. Millionaires know intimately what their net worth is, and a side effect of monitoring your net worth is that it forces you to confront the reality of your finances very frequently. This regular tracking will help you stay motivated since your wealth should be increasing over time. Most importantly, wealth building will no longer be an intangible goal, but something you can clearly wrap your head around and see on a screen. If you're interested in my 7 steps to becoming a millionaire this year, you'll want to check out this video popping up on the screen right now. Thanks for being here, and thanks to Omnisend for sponsoring a portion of this video. I'll see you guys in this video right here or the next video on my channel. Peace.